Huh? What are you doing in my swamp?
Hello everybody, this is Ogre Boy, and I'm going to be doing my top 10 best movie sequels. This is for my top 10 Tuesdays, and this is the one y'all voted for. I had a poll between this one and another video that I'm kind of working on called Top 10 Non-Horror Movies to Watch During Halloween. Now, I'm going to do that one here in a couple weeks, but since y'all voted that you wanted this one first, this is the one I'm doing first, so I'm going to go ahead and get going. And also, before I get going, I wanted to mention this list is only for the first sequels and franchises. So, for examples, it's only the part 2s. It's not part 3 or part 4 or anything after part 2, and it's not prequels. Those get their own lists later down the line, maybe. So, I just wanted to say that. And I'll go ahead and get going. Coming in at number 10 is Clerks 2. This movie is a really, really great sequel to the first one. It came out 12 years later, and Kevin Smith did a really, really great job writing it and everything. He was kind of done with the View Askew universe for a couple years after doing Jay and Silent Bob reboot, but he decided to open the book back up and tell another story, and this one is a really, really fun sequel. I think it's actually even better than the first one. It's one of the very rare times that a comedy movie is better than the first one. I absolutely love Clerks 2, and Clerks 3 is a great sequel too. If I ever do a top 10 threequels list, I can guarantee you that will be on that one. But I love Clerks 2 and everything, so it's number 10. And number 9 is Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. This is a movie that I kind of rediscovered how much I liked it a couple years ago, right before Bill and Ted Face the Music came out. I rewatched it, and I really love Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. It is a lot of fun. It has a lot of really great moments. The jokes are hilarious. I love the whole subplot of them getting sent to hell where they meet death, and William Sadler is just absolutely hilarious as Death, a really great character. I loved him in both this one and the third movie, but I thought he was really good in here. I feel like this was a really great sequel. As a kid, I watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure way more than I did this one. I saw that one many times because I actually owned that one on VHS and everything. It was like a recorded VHS copy, but I watched it over and over again as a kid. And this one I didn't have access to, so I never really watched Bogus Journey very much as a kid. I saw it maybe once as a kid, and then I've seen it a couple times as an adult, and I just have a lot more fun with it now as an adult. I think it's even better than the first one now, and it's still one of my favorite. It's definitely one of my favorite sequels. So Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey is number 9, and number 8 is Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. I'm one of the very few people that would actually go as far to say that I actually like this one a teeny bit more than the first one. This one and the first one are so close together for me that they're almost a tie, but I absolutely love Home Alone 2. I'm not going to talk too much more about it because I reviewed it a long time ago with my friend Esley, and we might be re-reviewing it later this year, so I'm not going to talk much more about it, but I love Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, so it's number 8, and number 7 is Terminator 2, Judgment Day. This is another great sequel. It's been one of my favorites ever since I first saw it too, just like with the Home Alone franchise, or the Home Alone 1 and 2, I feel like Terminator 1 and 2 go together perfectly, and we're almost on the same level of good and everything, but the Terminator 2 is just a really great sequel. It's one of the best sequels that really expands from the first one and everything. It works really well. It's a really great story and really fun movie. So Terminator 2 Judgment Day is number 7, and number 6 is Child's Play 2. I'm sure a lot of y'all aren't surprised that this one's on there. I absolutely love the Child's Play franchise. It's my favorite slasher franchise, and this one is probably my favorite slasher movie of all time. I love Child's Play 2. It took everything that I loved about the first one and upped it. Everything. We get more Chucky, we get some of his best one-liners in this one, although I think the third one actually has the most one-liners that I've loved out of his movies, but this one has a lot of really good ones too. And it's just a really fun movie. I love the dynamic between Andy and Kyle and their relationship and stuff that unfortunately hasn't gone in the direction I was hoping it would. I'd love to see a lot more of them in the franchise, but the way the Chucky show is going, it's hard to say if we will or not. But I love this. I think it's pretty good. So Child's Play 2 is number 6, and number 5 is Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. I know this is kind of repeating what I had on. I had this on my Johnny Depp list last time, but I love this movie. Like I said when I did that list and when I reviewed it last year, I just absolutely love the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, and or the first 3 movies anyway. But this one is my favorite one out of all 3 of them. It took everything that, like with Terminator 2, and Child's Play 2, and most of the movies on this list, it took everything that I loved about the first one and upped it, and it worked really well in this one too. It's more adventurous, it's more fun, it has a lot more funny moments in here too, but it also has a lot of intense, creepy moments with Davy Jones and stuff, so it's a really great movie. So Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest is number 5, and number 4 is Ghostbusters 2. I absolutely love Ghostbusters 2. I think it's a blast from start to finish. This is I'm one of the very few people that actually like this one more than the original, and I think it comes down to this is the one I have the most nostalgia for. I watched this one more as a kid because it was the one I had access to because I had it on video. The first one I only got to watch it if it ever came on TV, which was very rare and stuff, or if I was over at a friend's house that happened to have it. So I watched this one a lot more as a kid, but when I think of Ghostbusters, this is the movie I think of. I love the story, the stuff with the slime, and Vigo the painting, I think is his name. He's really good. He's a pretty cool villain. He's not near as good as villains in the first movie. I personally think the first one has better villains, but I personally like this one more. I think it's more funny, and I just love the campiness of it and everything. It just has that 80s feel to it, and it's just a lot of fun. So Ghostbusters 2 is number 4, and number 3 is SpiderMan 2. I bet a lot of y'all probably thought this was going to be number 1, but there are 2 movies that I would say are better sequels than this one. But I absolutely love SpiderMan 2. It's just a perfect continuation of the story that we got in the first one. It answers the questions we wanted from the first one. Well done and everything, and it left a few questions for part 3, which were somewhat answered okay in that one, but this one I think is definitely one of the best sequels of all time, though. And it's my favorite superhero movie of all time still, and my favorite Spider-Man movie, and I just absolutely love this movie. So Spider-Man 2 is number 3, and number 2 is Toy Story 2. When this movie first came out, it was acclaimed for being one of those rare sequels that was able to be as good or even better than its predecessor, and I completely agree with that. I have always have that. I think that Toy Story 2 is takes everything that was great about Toy Story 1 and ups it. We get great new characters with Jesse, Bullseye, and Stinky Pete is a pretty good new villain, and so is Owl and then you get Zurg, and you get all kinds of cool stuff in here, and it has a lot of really great moments and stuff. This was one of my favorite movies as a kid. I was 7 years old when it first came out, so I was like perfect age for Toy Story 2, and it's always been one of my favorite sequels, and it always will be, and everything. And it's barely number 2. I almost put it at number 1, but there is one sequel that I feel like has to be at number 1. So but yeah, Toy Story 2 is a very high number 2. Before I get into it, my number 1, I'm going to go ahead and do my honorable mentions. Dumb and Dumber 2. I think this one is a pretty good sequel. It's not as good as the first one, but it's still a really great sequel. Top Gun Maverick is a really great sequel too. I just saw it once so far this year, so that's why I didn't make the top 10 list. I need to rewatch it and stuff. It could eventually become a top 10 favorite sequels, but for right now it's an honorable mention. Same with the Suicide Squad. It almost made the list, but I just couldn't quite fit it on there. Stuart Little 2, which if I would have thought about it, might have made it on there, but probably not, because everything I mentioned in here on this list are ones that I love. But those are my honorable mentions, and coming in at number 1 is Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. I absolutely love this movie. It's been one of my favorite movies ever since I was 6 years old when I watched the trilogy for the first time. And I remember when I watched this movie for the first time and found out that Vader was Luke's father, my mind was completely blown away and everything. And I've loved this movie ever since, and I've been obsessed with Star Wars ever since I was 7 years old. But Empire Strikes Back is easily my favorite Star Wars movie, and to me is the greatest sequel of all time, because it takes a lot for a movie to be a sequel to something like Star Wars and be even better than the first one, because the original Star Wars is one of the greatest movies of all time as well. So I definitely wanted to say that Empire Strikes Back is definitely number 1. So also, I forgot to mention in my honorable mentions The Godfather Part 2. I love that movie too, but I also kind of didn't include it because it's also a prequel. So since it's a hybrid, I kind of just left it off the list, but I do love that one too. And I'll talk about the Godfather franchise sometime on here. I haven't actually gone into those movies yet, so maybe that's something I can have a goal for, is one of the ones I do in 2023 is the Godfather franchise. But anyway, let me know in the comments what your favorite sequels of all time are. If you want, tell me your favorites out of the ones that I chose for mine. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.